Once upon a time, in a small town between quiet hills, there lived a humble shoemaker and his kind-hearted wife. They were poor, but they were honest, and every day the shoemaker worked as hard as his hands would allow. Still, no matter how carefully he stitched or how gently he shaped the leather, they had very little money left. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops and the last light faded from the sky, the shoemaker discovered that he had just enough leather to make one final pair of shoes. He cut the leather carefully, laid the pieces out neatly on his workbench, and sighed. His work for the day was done, and though he didn't know what tomorrow would bring, he quietly hoped for better days. The shoemaker and his wife blew out their candle and went upstairs to rest, the warmth of the fire slowly filling the room with a gentle glow. During the quiet of the night, when everyone was fast asleep, something remarkable happened. Tiny feet pattered softly across the floor. Two little elves appeared in the workshop. Their eyes sparkled with joy, and without a word, they set to work. They stitched, taped, pulled, and polished. Their movements were quick but graceful, and their tiny hands worked with great care. The elves smiled as they worked, as if making beautiful shoes was the happiest task in the whole world. By the time the first light of the morning touched the windows, the shoes were finished. They were not ordinary shoes, they were perfect. The leather shone, the stitching was strong, and the style was finer than anything the shoemaker had ever made himself. When the shoemaker came downstairs, he stopped in amazement. He called his wife to see. Neither could imagine who might have done this work. Still, there was no time to wonder, for soon a customer entered the shop. When he saw the shoes, he was delighted. They fit as though they were made just for him, and he paid the shoemaker more money than he had earned in a long time. With that money, the shoemaker bought enough leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That night, he cut the pieces with care and laid them neatly on his bench once again. And just as before, when the house was quiet and everyone was asleep, the elves returned. They set to work cheerfully, their tiny fingers flying as they shaped each shoe with joy. By morning, 2 pairs of fine shoes stood on the table, more beautiful than the first pair. The shoemaker and his wife were astonished. Customers arrived quickly, eager to buy such fine shoes. With the money they made, the shoemaker was able to buy enough leather for 4 pairs of shoes. And once again, he set the pieces out on the bench before going to bed. Night after night, the same magical event occurred. The elves returned, silently and joyfully crafting the most beautiful shoes anyone had ever seen. The shoemaker soon had enough money to live comfortably. His worries began to fade, replaced with gratitude and quiet happiness. One evening, after many nights of blessings, the shoemaker said to his wife, "We must show our thanks to the ones who have helped us. Let us stay awake tonight and discover who they are." They lit a small candle and hid behind a curtain near the workshop. When the clock struck midnight, in came the 2 little elves. They were dressed in ragged pieces of cloth, barefooted, and smiling as they worked. The shoemaker and his wife watched in wonder. The elves stitched and sewed, their tiny hands moving quickly and skillfully until the shoes were complete. When they were done, they slipped away just as quietly as they had come. The next morning, the shoemaker's wife said softly, "Those little elves have helped us so much. I would like to make clothes for them, and you can make them each a pair of shoes to keep them warm and show our thanks." The shoemaker agreed at once. That day, he worked happily, making 2 tiny pairs of fine leather shoes. Meanwhile, His wife sewed little shirts, small coats, trousers, and even hats made of soft wool. That evening, they placed the gifts on the workbench instead of leather, and then they hid once again. At midnight, the elves appeared as usual. When they saw the clothes, their eyes grew wide with surprise and joy. They put on the little shirts, buttoned their coats, and slipped into their new shoes. They danced with happiness, twirling around the room, tapping their heels on the floor in delight, wearing their new clothes proudly. The elves waved a final farewell and disappeared into the night. They never returned to the workshop again, but from that night forward, good fortune stayed with the shoemaker and his wife. Their shop was always filled with work, and their days were filled with peace and contentment. And so, with kindness in their hearts and gratitude in their home, they lived happily ever after.